to Real Talk with Tina and Ann. I am Ann, and today we're diving into something that hits pretty close to home for me, and honestly, for a lot of women in midlife. The moment that I heard about you, Angela, I knew that I just had to have you on the show. This stage of life, it's full of pivots. It's about claiming or reclaiming who we are and who we want to be. I really see it as an exciting chapter. It's not a crisis chapter. It's not the end chapter. It's a comeback chapter. And you, Angela, are leading a full blown midlife revolution, which I love. You're the writer and founder of Real Girls Guide and RGG 55 on Substack, and you're changing the narrative for women in their 40s, 50s, and beyond. We're going to talk all the good stuff. I mean, all of it. Hormones, humor, identity, and why growing older doesn't mean fading out. It means turning up the volume. So let's age out loud. Angela, I am so glad to have you on the show.
Well, I am so very glad to be here, Anne, and really thrilled that you invited me. So thanks for having me.
We just had National Healthy Aging Month, and this is Menopause Awareness Month. This is the perfect time to talk about this. Angela, we all age. I mean, it's inevitable. We can't not do it. So what made now the right time to launch Real Girls Guide and RG55? What inspired you to do this?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And the truth is that I actually had the idea for a book when I was 35. So 2 decades ago, and the book was going to be The Real Girl's Guide to Over 35. And I had built chapter outlines, and I had notes, and I had a lot of these big questions that I felt I was facing at that time. I was newly married. I had a couple kids then. I was sort of at this pivot point in my, one of many, but at a pivot point in my career. And I didn't know it then, but even my body was changing. The appearance of my body was changing. The function of my body was changing. I was starting to enter, again, back then I didn't have a word for it, but I was starting to enter perimenopause, and I just had all these questions. And so I started a folder, and I thought, oh, you know what, I'm going to write this book. I've got questions. Other women, I'm sure, have stories and examples of ways that they've navigated through this. And I think it's what I need right now. And life got busy, and the folder literally got buried. Buried under a lot of things, kind of literally and figuratively. And if I fast forward, I had the good fortune of retiring in December, and I was cleaning up my desk, and I found the folder. I found the folder.
Yeah, it was just the perfect time.
It was the perfect time. And I opened the folder, and I was like, you know, there were so many things that were happening to me. So, you know, like I had my own journey with menopause. I kind of fully entered, I guess, that, you know, let's not have a period for 12-month phase and all of a sudden you're in menopause. That happened to me at the end of my 47th year. Yet there were still things that were changing for me. They were, you know, I was changing as a woman. My marital status changed. I met a new man. I was kind of rediscovering myself on a lot of different vectors. But again, I didn't really have a label for what was happening. I just knew things were happening. So finding the folder and opening it, I was like, man, questions are different, but the themes were almost exactly the same. And I was like, you know what? I need to do this now. And so that's what I did.
That's amazing. Right on time. And I say
Right
that all the time. It
Yeah.
was just supposed to happen right now. It's really exciting that you're doing that right now. I think that women in general are changing. Do you think that women our age feel less than? Where does that message come from, and how do we unlearn it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. You know, I think that the message comes from a lot of different sources, right? You know, for me, I grew up with very strong women around me, but there were certain roles that these women played. So I sort of had kind of the role models in my life that I watched. I think the media has a lot to do with it too, right? I love Diane Keaton, who, my goodness, like God bless her, and you know, really such a sad passing for me. But you know, the media traditionally has not necessarily portrayed women of our age in a particularly exciting and powerful way. And then I learned a lot of the stories that I probably developed when I was a kid. You know, my role to not cause waves, to be peaceful, to not cause grief, to
Mm.
Yeah, to shrink and to play small, all for the sake of keeping everything calm around me. I personally let a lot of those things impact how I saw myself, how I saw myself in my role in a lot of different facets of my life. And it wasn't like this, this depressed state, I wouldn't say, but it just became ingrained. And I
Mm.
finally started realizing, kind of as I entered 50 and in my early 50s, it was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm tired. I am out of F's. I don't know if we curse here, but I'm a cursor. So I'm out of F's to give and I'm tired. And
Mm.
so my
Mm.
voice got louder. My voice got louder first with myself. I don't have to shrink. I don't have to play small. I don't have to
Mhm.
say no with an essay. I don't need to allow the stories that other people wrote about me to be the ones I
Oh,
tell about myself.
I
And it
say this
just was a light bulb.
I say this all the time. Oh my gosh, you just defined our podcast. I think that we were raised in the time when it was sit up straight, tuck your shirt in. You have to look nice. Appearance is more important than anything else. Not really what's happening in real life. It's about appearance. And you have to listen and be a peacemaker. And that's how I was trained. I think that a lot of our generation was trained that way. And allowing other people to define us. That was who we were. And
Yes,
and the same thing happened for me where I got to the point where I was like no more.
no
No
more.
more. I'm going to speak up and I'm going to have a voice and I'm going to define who I am.
Well, and I'm going to define who I am, and I'm going to do it with zero apologies. I
Mm.
don't owe the world comfort. I don't owe the world peace. I don't owe the world their joy. I just don't. I have to do this stuff for myself. And I think what was so interesting about the book idea I had 20 years ago and the book that I've written now is the fact that it's not a guide, although I do like the word guide. It's really not meant to be like, the blueprint, right? But it is a companion. It is a start to how do we reframe this time? And it kind of starts with us, right? And I found that to be true for myself. It didn't start with anybody else sitting me down and going, hey, you're at this point. I think you should kind of make some changes. I just got to a place and it was like this slow burn. It wasn't this big ignited fire. It was a slow burn of me
Mm.
just looking and stopping and going, wait a minute, this thing is happening to me. Why? Do I like it? Do I not? If I don't, I'm not going to stand for it. This opportunity is presenting itself to me. Why am I not taking it? Am I afraid? What's the worst that can
Okay.
happen? And it kind of evolved into so many different facets of me as a person in the way I parented. I was going through these transitions where my kids, between my partner and I, we have a staggering number of children. We have 7. I have 3 boys
Oh,
myself, and they were
yeah.
2 of them were transitioning to adults. I was finding like I was my role as a parent was changing, and I'm like, look, I can
Hmm.
let all these things happen to me, or I can take control. And I'm done letting other people define who I am, how I think,
Mm.
what I want, the things I'm going to do, the things I'm not going to do. That whole saying no without an essay, man, that's like life changing for me. Life
Mm.
changing.
You know, I just love you. You are just speaking everything. Uh, I can tell you that I know women who are in their 80s and 90s. One is 85, and she is running this agency for youth, and she is affecting so many kids every single day. And she never misses work, and she exercises all the time. And I know a woman who's in her 90s, and she just wrote a book about, and she's her life. She's writing a book about her life, and she's going around speaking. I happen to be at Hoda Kotb's birthday party in New York City when it was an amazing birthday party. We had VIP tickets. We were front, right up front and everything. And
Amazing.
it was so good. And she came out of turning 60 saying, "This is the best decade of my life." She left the Today Show and she's rewriting it. I
Yeah.
mean, these are all women who are living on purpose. And I
Yes.
love that saying, Can you talk more about what it means to live on purpose?
I love that. And I frame it, it's the very same sentiment, but I've called it this kind of radical midlife self-possession. And I think where it
Okay.
starts, right? When you live on purpose, you live with intention, right? And for
Mm-hmm.
me, what that means is I don't just let things happen. I'm very
Okay.
inquisitive. I'm very directed. And if I'm noticing a shift, if I'm noticing an opportunity, if I'm seeing
Mm-hmm.
something that I want to do, I am very intentional. Like, what is happening? Why? And is this something I want to do? Is this something I want to experience? And if the answer to that is yes, then I'm going to do it. And I think for me, this idea of living on purpose is living with intention. And it's, yeah, you could feel the fear because I
Mm-hmm.
got to tell you, I spent 30 years in high tech marketing, writing a book. I've never
Oh,
done it. Uh,
right.
Launching a Substack, I've never done it. And so for me, there's a lot of fear in that, but I'm feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And I think this idea of this, what I've called this radical midlife self-possession is for the first time in my life, and I'm seeing this through friends and women that I've had the opportunity to meet, we are starting to live for ourselves. We are starting to reclaim and
Mm-hmm.
reframe the role that we have as individuals and what we want the next phase of our life to look like. And,
Yeah.
and so I think that living on purpose, there's a lot of intention behind it. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
self-awareness, but there's
Mm-hmm.
also this radical embracing of, hey, this phase is about me. And it's not to be, rude, and it's not to be dismissive of other people, but it is to put
Right.
ourselves first. And this is a shift. I mean, for me, when you're raised as a woman, you become a wife, you become a mom. For
Mhm.
those of us who've gone down that path,
Yeah.
we're kind of intrinsically like shaped to just give to everybody.
That's
You
who we
give, you
are.
give, you give. And then finally at this,
Yeah.
I think because I have so few things left to give, I'm finally looking at it and going, no, 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 it starts here. And it has to
Yeah.
start here.
Yeah. Normally we're the last people that we think of.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I do think that living on purpose is, the acceptance of and the embrace of ourselves. It is this
Okay.
feeling, this vibe, an intention of reclaiming either parts of ourselves that maybe we ignored
Mm-hmm.
or kind of let get dusty. I know for me, that's how I
Mm.
felt for a lot of times. Like a lot of
Yeah.
the things that I loved about myself and that I knew made me a great person, I kind
Mm-hmm.
of let go.
Yeah.
I left them in the shadows, and
Yeah.
I'm done doing that.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of my view. It's kind of being intentional, but also
Mm.
being a little bit self-possessive, and that's not a bad thing.
No, it's not. And, you know, and that we have to give ourselves permission to do that. I mean,
Yes.
I am living my best life and I am not slowing down at all. I'm actually doing things that I've always wanted to. And that's with adopting three young kids in my 50s. That's what I did.
Wow. Yep.
So I am homeschooling one of them right now, and he just brings me so much joy. I mean, I'm really happy doing this. And I'm also running this podcast and meeting people all over the country like you. And I am so blessed in so many ways. And I feel like I'm just getting started. How can women tap into their passions when they're older? How can they rebuild themselves after some people think they are washed up?
Mm. I think a lot of it, and again, I'll kind of reframe it from my perspective, but a lot of the how-tos, I think, come from talking to other women. I mean, honestly, that
Oh,
was one of the
mm,
premises of this book, right? So 30 or 20 years ago, when I was 35, I was really struggling because I was
mm,
having all these feelings and none of my friends were talking about it. My mom and I are 19 years apart, and in some ways, I love it. My mom is one of my best friends right now, and I love it. But there were
okay.
things that were happening to her when I was in my 30s that I just associated with that's old. She's old
Mm,
because she's my mom.
mm,
But in reality,
mhm,
we were 19 years apart. But I think part of it for me was the struggle that nobody was talking about it. And so, what I found that's happening now, which I think is so great, is that there are so many more voices talking. And I think it starts with, hey, you've got to tune into the volume of noise around us because there's something to it.
mhm,
I am seeing
mhm.
more and more. I mean, this podcast. authors who are writing, women on Substack, celebrities, right? Who are writing books, and we're having these open conversations about the things that are happening to us. We're talking about hormones, we're talking about menopause, we're talking about libido changes. We're just having these conversations. So I think part of it for me was, I couldn't ignore the noise. And then when I had this idea, so found the folder in December, in April, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to write a book. And so that's what I started doing. And as I started talking to more of my friends, what I found was that created a groundswell. And I think that for me, and that gave me it gave me validation a little bit. And it gave me this sense of, spoiler alert, everything that I was feeling, it wasn't just me. And I was like, you know what, there is something to this. And so I think it starts with, hey, what's happening in your circle? What's happening around you? Listen to that. Then it's what's happening for me? What am I feeling right now? Do I feel restless? Do I feel dissatisfied? Do I feel like I have something in me that I want to go do, a passion that I want to go try? Am I fearful about it? Okay, cool. But what's stopping me? And then okay, let's work through the things that are stopping me. And then giving us permission to go, okay, it's okay to feel the fear, but do something. Just start. And for me, it was just start writing. And that's what I did. I didn't know any, I've never written, for my job, I've written, but I think that that's how we work through it. It's what's happening around us. Talk to people around us and people that we trust, and figure out what it is you want to do, and then just begin.
I think that we lose ourselves in all these decades of giving and being all these other roles, that it's really difficult to figure out what we want. So it's even more than just giving ourselves permission. I mean, that's the start, of course. But then I think that talking and writing, I think that is so important for us to be able to find ourselves.
100%. And that's why the podcast that you and Tina run, the conversations that you have are so important. And I think as women, it's almost like in some ways there's so much information, right? If you just take menopause, so much information that's happening, and it's sometimes hard to weed through it. But the fact that I'm noticing a dramatic increase of women talking, women talking to other women sharing their stories, getting vulnerable and really honest. And that's hard, right? But it's happening around us. And when you find the ability to kind of tap into that, and then give yourself a minute to just go, what are the things I want right now?
Yeah. I would say that when we first did this podcast, and my generation, I'm older than Tina, but I almost felt like with some of the things that I was saying, I was like, oh, did I say that out loud? Can people hear me? I mean, I felt pretty bad for doing that, but then I'm like, no, say it, say how you feel.
It's so true. So there's two things I want to comment on that, because it's absolutely a yes. And, as I started writing, so I started writing the book in April, I launched my newsletter, The Real Girl's Guide to Over 55 on Substack in June, maybe the middle of June. And I write probably 3 times a week. And I do write a lot about topics that are sensitive. I write a lot about sex, libido. I write a lot about kind of discovering things about myself that, to be totally honest, I didn't know until I was in my 40s and 50s. And a friend had asked me, aren't you embarrassed that your boys might read this stuff? And I'm like, you know what? I'm not, actually.
Yeah.
There's a chapter in the book where I do write a lot about my relationship now, and some amazing experiences that have allowed me to tap into things that I didn't even know about myself. And through the chapter, I have 3 warnings to all 7 of our children. Okay, kids, warning, this is about to get real. You might want to put the book down. Middle of the chapter, are you still here? And then the end of the chapter, it's if you're here, Godspeed to you. But so I'm not embarrassed, actually.
Right.
And then the second example that this just brings to my mind is, through the writing of the book, I had the great pleasure of meeting a woman who is an 82-year-old author. And she was incredible. So she and I did an interview for the book. I ended up doing a blog Q&A with her. And she actually wrote her first book when she was in her late 70s, early 80s, about grief. She had lost her husband and she was struggling. And she then went on to find love. at 82. So the last question I asked her was something like, what's been the most surprising thing about finding love at this stage? And she said that the parts still work and I like it. And I was like, here's this
Mm,
82-year-old amazing woman. And this is what we're talking about.
yeah. I think that when my mom and her friends, she's my mom's been gone since 2008, but she had a group of women that all tell you what, they were spitfires and they would bowl and they called themselves the happy hookers. And and they they would look at the guys bowling and things like that, and I even said something to one of the women that my mom would hang out with, and she'd say, I'm not dead, and I'm just like, yes. I mean, I loved it. That's what it's all about.
It really is. And that's reminding me of a story. So I was really close to both of my grandmothers, but my maternal grandmother in particular. And I remember being in my 20s and I didn't have an active like social life in my 20s. I was, I went to school, I started working. So I spent a lot of Friday nights with my grandma and we would watch things like Murder, She Wrote for those who remember those shows. But one
Yes.
night I was helping my grandma put laundry away and I went into a drawer and I saw a leopard, kind of just leopard print of something. And I pulled it out and I held it out in front of my arms and I accusingly looked at her and I said, what are these? And she said, well, we may be old. She was referring to my grandpa, but we're not dead. And she said, and
Mm-hmm.
remember, love is where you find it, like in the kitchen, on the dining room table, in the bathroom, in the living room. And I was like, well, that's just says it all. Like, and she was
Mm,
she was in her 70s at that point.
yeah.
So, these conversations happen, but I think they're happening more now. And
Mm-hmm.
I could not be happier, that finally we're having these conversations.
Yeah. I mean, I think that they kind of started to pave the way for us. I mean, I can remember my aunts, and they were the next generation up above my mom. And I mean, the dresses and the hair was up, and they cooked in their dresses, and you always had to come to the table. But I was surrounded by strong women.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that really helped me. Their strength showed up in the home. I think that more outside as change makers in the world. But now women are redefining what's possible at every single age. How do you think that we got here? What shifted in our culture and in ourselves to open that door?
Well, I think, okay, so I have a few points of view, but just from a data perspective, I was reading a
Mm-hmm.
statistic that said something like by the year 2030, women over 55 will represent like nearly 1/3 of the US female population. Okay. So there's
Okay.
something that's happening just in our numbers. I also think that what's happening is a lot of our economic system is tapping into the fact that we women above the age of 40 have a lot of spending power.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, we are becoming a very attractive and relevant demographic. So that's number
Okay.
one. And so you can look at that and go, gosh, is that really what it takes? Like everything's about dollars and cents. But we
Well,
can debate that for sure. But let's just like the data doesn't lie.
mm-hmm.
So there's that. And I think that part of it is there are more of us, right, in this midlife. And even again, midlife is a little bit of an arbitrary phrase, but when you look at our demographic, late 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, there's just a lot of us. We have a lot of power. And I
Mm-hmm.
think we're starting to see more of us in positions that are very visible personally. And I
Uh-huh.
think so that's one thing. I also wonder if part of this is, the fact that in the course of, this influencer culture, right? You see a lot
Right.
more women just getting very vocal and comfortable sharing parts of their lives. So I can't say that because before June, when I launched my newsletter, I had zero social media presence. I hadn't posted on Facebook since like 2018. So I wasn't a
Okay.
social person, but you can't escape what you're seeing. So you're seeing
Mm-hmm.
a lot more of us. We're
Right.
recognizing that we have a lot of spending power. And we're starting to see this generation of women who might be younger than us, who are just out there in the world. And
Yeah.
they're talking and they're sharing and they're putting themselves in uncomfortable positions. And yet they're persevering. And so I think
Right.
it's kind of a combination of these things. And then I just think that the conversation that we're having, these conversations are shifting, right? Like I would never have imagined even being 35 and talking to my girlfriends about my libido or about,
right.
my sexual experiences or what I was feeling or why I was feeling it. So there's a shift in the content of the things that we're talking about
Right.
that I think is probably contributing to a lot of this kind of culture of acceptance and appreciation for what we bring to the party.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
I'm a TikTok person, and I think that there's a lot of older people that come in my algorithm who show up and they're talking about everything. And
yes.
I absolutely love it. And I stay on those, and I think
Yeah.
it's because I'm older and it really does resonate with me. But I just love that the younger people are listening to them too. And
Yes.
what I love about that is that at some point, maybe they realize we might have some wisdom. I don't know. We've earned it.
Yeah.
But there are a couple women on there that's what they do. They just get up there and they tell their wise, what they're thinking for the day. And I just really love that we've been given platforms.
I think so. And I think we've been giving them, I think the conversations are changing. And what I love probably the most is that more women are taking advantage of it. More of us are standing up and kind of
Yes.
getting out of the shadows and going, you know what? I have something to say. I'm feeling
Yeah.
something. I'm struggling with something. And chances are, if it's happening for me, to me, it's happening for a lot of other
Right.
people. So what's the worst that can happen? Right. So I recently had lunch with a group of girlfriends that I've known since I was in elementary school. And
Okay.
man, that the tenor and the content of that lunch, I think part and parcel to what I've been writing about and how incredibly supportive they've been was totally different. Totally different. And we all walked away feeling like just to your like standing straighter and feeling
Hmm.
stronger. And like, you know what? We don't owe the world, we don't owe our kids, we don't owe our partners anything but coming to the collective party as who we are. And
Right.
you don't need, and we don't need to ask for permission for that. And we knew that at that lunch, we all had each other's back. So whatever
Hmm.
subject matter was discussed, me, when I brought up mine, it was like, I knew I had 6 other women who were like, absolutely, you go
Hmm.
and don't look back.
Hmm.
And it
Right.
was, there's something very empowering, I think, when you know you've got a collective, whether it's women that you know, or women that you're engaging with, or women that you're meeting, who are standing
Hmm.
alongside you, who you're
Hmm.
not alone.
Right.
And that whether they're directly or indirectly, we're all kind of rooting for one another. And that's the thing that I think is super powerful.
See, that's good too, because women can be so competitive, and I think that that's great that
Mm.
that has shifted. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you talk about in the heart of your message, you do talk about radical self-possession. What does that mean in plain language, and how
Yep.
can women practice it daily?
Yep. So here's what it means for me. It means you get to say no without having to write an essay.
Okay.
Because I'm super guilty of that. You know, if
Hmm.
somebody asks me to do something, whether it's associated with my kids or something else, it's like, oh man, no. And here's the 17 reasons why I can't do it. Why don't no? My answer's just no. Or here are the things I can do. I don't owe anybody an essay. So that's one way that I've embraced this.
Yeah.
I think that it's also, I've realized that, in my career in particular, there were certain opportunities that either I didn't pursue or I wasn't invited to. And
Mm.
in this new phase of retirement, I'm not waiting for somebody to invite me to your table. If I don't like your table, and if I want to be at a table like yours, I'm going to make my own. So I'm not
Mhm.
waiting for somebody to invite me. So that's another way that it's manifesting itself. I think in some ways, it's also just doing. Booking a trip if you want to take a trip.
Yeah.
Breaking a pattern if you want to break a pattern. Share something that you want to share, but just taking action and doing something, beginning. Just begin. I certainly,
Mhm.
when I set out to do this book, I didn't have a roadmap. I've never done this before, and I am figuring
Mhm.
it out as I go. But it started for me because I just began it.
Mhm.
I think the other thing that the way it has shown up for me is this idea that I am not responsible for the peace of other people. And that peace doesn't come by me being soft and being
Mm-hmm.
calm and being easy and being small and being, just even. It just does.
Ah,
So, and I'm not responsible for everybody else's comfort and peace and happiness. And I also think I am wholly embracing this idea of being uncomfortable and unbothered myself, but
mm-hmm.
also I have to let other people sit in their own discomfort. I cannot be responsible for that. And I don't have to perform to make other people feel comfortable.
Yeah. You touched on something that I think that we so often do, and that's own other people's stuff. We really
It's so true.
do. I mean, we just pick up everybody else's baggage and we carry it around instead of lay it down and just deal with what we have. And I think that that's part of the reason why we haven't really worked on ourselves for so
Yeah.
long, because we're working on everybody else.
I think you're absolutely right. I think we're working on everybody else. And if I look back at that time as well, for me, I had very legitimate reasons, I thought, for what I was doing. I
Mm,
was doing things for my kids, my partner.
right.
I was doing things for stability. I was doing, maybe because either directly or indirectly, some of this stuff was modeled for me. And in some
Hmm.
cases, it was just
For
survival,
sure.
right? Like
Yeah.
in some ways, it was like, oh, if I just am silent about this thing, I'll power through it. I'll get through it. Everything will be fine. But, this idea that like survival just became for me in some ways silence. And I just
Hmm.
realized that none of those things are true. And they don't, and maybe they were true for me then. And I'm not going to go back and like rehash and, like beat myself up with a stick about all that stuff. But what am I doing now? I am changing. I don't
Hmm.
need to follow those patterns anymore. And I'm
Right,
not.
right. Yeah, we don't need to be silenced. We don't need to be
No,
quiet. And I
no.
absolutely love that. Another thing that you point out is hormones and emotions intersect with power and confidence.
Yes.
I love that. Can
Yeah.
you
Well,
explain that?
yeah. So, and again, I'll relate it to my own experience, but I think so. I was reading this article about the power of estrogen, some of these hormones, right? These female
Mm,
hormones. For a lot of years, as we're developing, and again, I'm not a doctor. I'm just, kind of a real girl trying to figure all this stuff out.
right.
Because the changes come daily and they don't stop, I'm finding. But,
Mm,
there's this protective layer that like some of these female hormones give us, right?
hmm.
As we're kind of coming up in age. And they, in my experience, I think what they did was they also helped me to just be softer. I was probably a little bit more
Okay.
agreeable. I was a little bit softer, but I also did not have a lot of labels and names to put on the things that were happening in my body.
Mm-hmm.
If I look back at my mid 30s to late 30s, I was absolutely in full blown perimenopause. I only know that now. I had no idea at the time, none. And
Okay.
then I get through having my last son at 40, and then things are starting to shift at 41, 42, 43, 44. And I was like, what is actually happening to me? And
Mm,
and I was also going through a divorce at that time. I was trying to settle and stabilize myself and my three boys. They needed me to be a steady presence.
right.
My hormones were off the rocker, but I didn't
Yeah.
have a name for it. And so I think what happens was, for me, looking back at that time, I I am so much kinder and gentler about who I was at that period, because I now know what
Mm-hmm.
was happening to me. And I
Mm-hmm.
think in a lot of ways, a lot of the changes that I made, it took a lot of confidence, but it wasn't anything that I was able to tap into, because I didn't even know. I was just like, hey, these things are happening. I'm shifting all over the place. I'm not sure why, but I just have to do. And so for
Mm-hmm.
me, a lot of this intersection has come through the acknowledgement that the things that I was feeling at that time were absolutely hormonal. They were not in my head. Number one, I was
Mm-hmm.
not crazy. Number two,
Right.
and I still feel that way. And
Mm-hmm.
I think number three is the fact that as I kind of progressed through this menopause journey, I have become a much more powerful force for me. I'm taking better care of myself. I'm starting to question the things that are happening to me and why. I'm not
Mm.
taking no for an answer when my doctor shoulder shrugs and like, yeah, you've been in menopause since 47. And yeah, it sucks that you have hot flashes again. I don't know what to tell you. And
Mm-hmm.
like, that's unacceptable to me.
Right.
And so
Self-advocating.
yeah, totally, totally. And I'm taking control and I'm taking back my power to go, you know what? I'm not satisfied with that. And it's not all in my head. And this myth that I was probably given that menopause, like I really thought once you kind of get through that magic 12 months, you tick a box and go, wow, I can turn in my card now. I'm done.
Yeah.
That's not been my experience. And so
Yeah.
I'm tapping into all these things and I'm feeling confident to go, no, 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 doctor who I've seen for 25 years, I am that answer is unacceptable to me. And I am not going to stop until I find somebody who is going to listen to what is happening to me right now. And that takes a
Mm-hmm.
level of power, like I'm reclaiming my power. It takes
Mm-hmm.
a level of acknowledgement that I am not crazy. These
Right.
hormone things are shifting for me. And I am becoming
Mm.
dissatisfied with answers that are not progressing me forward. So I think that intersection, I'm not sure if I answered your question directly, but it's that intersection of, we're becoming more educated. We're becoming dissatisfied with even just the physical changes that are happening inside of our body. We're starting to now label these things because we understand them more. And we're starting
Mm-hmm.
to go, you know what? I am not going to sit back and just let these things happen. I'm going
Right.
to get help. And that's what we're doing.
Right. I had a vision of when you were talking about the doctor of, and I've seen this happen to myself, and it's a different scenario, but it's the same thing where like a woman goes to buy a car and their experience is so different. The price that they're offered, the way that they, the whole entire experience of how a salesman deals with a woman versus how a salesman deals with a man. Or if your car needs fixed, they tell you all these things are wrong with it and all this stuff. And then you end up paying thousands of dollars and a man goes. And I mean, it's really true how we are treated. And uh, I mean, I still see that today.
Oh, absolutely. So there's a couple of examples I'll give you for this. Um, I was having this conversation with a friend. I was having some bladder problems. Okay. And it
Mm-hmm.
was, I went to my doctor and she's like, well, yeah, this is just what happens. You've had 3 kids, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what? I'm unsatisfied because all I do is talk about pee pads with my friends. That's a big topic of conversation. Like, well, what pad are you wearing? And is it working? Is it not? So she
Yeah.
sent me to a urologist who did an ultrasound. So I go back and I do the ultrasound and we just want to make sure that there's nothing structurally wrong with the bladder. And I mentioned to the ultrasound tech, like, man, these used to be a lot more fun when I was coming in to see the baby, when I was pregnant, when the baby's
Mm.
like, do you want me to take a picture of it? I could send you home with a picture. And I'm like, no. Well, she did. And I realized we could only find one ovary in my uterus. And so I go to have dinner with a girlfriend that night. And I'm like, did
Uh,
you like, did you know? And I pulled out my ultrasound picture, which I have right here on my desk. I said, look at my one ovary. Like, how big are our ovaries supposed to be at this age? And here we are in our mid 50s. She's like, I'm not sure. I said, are
mm.
they supposed to be like walnut size or pear size? She's like, I don't know. So we don't know. And then I said, how come I only have one? And she's like, I don't know. So then I went on to kind of research and realized that, yeah, like sometimes what happens with your body is when you have organs that aren't used, they kind of just disappear. So I said to my girlfriend, I called her back and I said, so imagine this. What if we told men that in their mid 50s, one of their testicles was going to shrivel up and just fall off?
Yeah.
You better believe we would have a national vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one example. Another example is, so this past summer, I was reading a book by Miranda July. It's called All Fours. It's a fictional book, a little smutty, but it was a really good book. But in that book, she created a hormone chart, men and
Mm-hmm.
women, estradiol and testosterone over decades. And
Mm-hmm.
basically this chart shows the dramatic, not a cute little stroll down a hill, but a dramatic fall for
Mm-hmm.
women on estrogen and how little testosterone we have, and even the little amount we have, how starkly it decreases versus men who their decline is smaller. And I'm thinking to myself, I am in my
Mm.
mid 50s. How did I never know that? because all the things that
Right.
I was feeling from a libido standpoint, I got answered. Like that chart made sense to me. And my
Mm-hmm.
partner was reading the same book with me. We like to read the same books. He had to get on a flight to London. He gets off the flight. He calls me. He said, "Did you get to the chart?" And I said, "Well, I'm past the chart." He said, "Babe, I am so sorry."
Oh,
And I'm thinking
wow.
to myself, how is it that I'm a 50-year-old woman and I I never understood that that is what was happening inside my body. And I
Hmm.
believe that if it were about men, every 10th grader in the US would have learned about that in health class. And it would
Hmm.
be printed on, you know how you go to the pharmacy
Yes.
and you get a bag and they print like cute little reminders, get your flu shot, do
Sure.
this. It
Right.
would be printed as a warning on a pharmacy bag. Like I'm quite positive. But I think that that's it. It's the, for me personally, it was how absolutely undereducated I was, but I didn't even know that I should be asking these questions. I just knew that stuff was happening
Right.
for me. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yes, it does. And we don't get a book for this.
No,
And
we
so
don't.
we aren't told how to age as women and what's
No,
really happening with our bodies.
no.
So it would be really nice if physicians were more forthcoming in some of this information.
100%. 100%. And I think, I think we're starting to see a lot more conversation about it now. The challenge that I have too is, man, how do I weed through? And, how do I decipher all this? I'm not a doctor. I didn't go to medical school, but, I
Right.
think for me, the way I'm just kind of addressing all this is I'm being much more attentive to the things that are happening to me, the
Mm-hmm.
changes that I feel, the emotional changes, the physical
Mm.
changes, the reproductive changes, whatever it is. And when these things are happening, I'm asking questions. I am demanding answers from my doctor. I'm talking to my girlfriends going,
Right.
"Hey, are you seeing this? Am I crazy? Am I the only one?" And the answer
Mm-hmm.
is no, you're not. So I'm just
Right.
starting to key into some of those things. And I think with that ability and interest in focusing on myself, I am taking back power and I feel a lot more confident, whether it's stepping into a doctor's office and not accepting that shoulder shrug or, looking at, hey, yeah, my libido's changed. It does not have to
Yeah.
feel like this.
Right. One of the things that I've noticed about you, though, in your writing and in your speaking, when we're even talking here, one of the things that you do is you go to humor.
Yeah.
And, humor can be a real tool when we're dealing with hot flashes and we're and we're feeling so hot and life stresses is even hotter. I mean, how do you deal and use this as a tool?
Yeah. I think, it's really funny because I think in a lot of ways, I am exactly the same person, whether I'm in front of my
Mm,
kids. I do try to moderate my curse words in front of the kids, but I think even now I'm like, I'm just too tired to do that.
mm-hmm,
But I'm pretty
mm-hmm.
much the same person, wherever I am. And I've just found that the only way I know how to be when I'm talking about all this stuff is just honest. And the stuff that happens to me,
I love it.
it's embarrassing, but it's just honest. And it is kind of funny. The
It,
fact that I literally wrote a whole blog about pee pads and the dribble
mm-hmm,
because
mm,
it's all I talk about right now. And
right.
and I feel like there's no shame in that game. I think, and so I think I'm exactly the same person that I am in front of my kids, in front of amazing women like you, in front of my bosses, in front of my partner, in front of my parents, whatever. I think it's just being very honest and open because I kind of have felt
Mm-hmm,
like if I'm struggling with this stuff, I cannot be the only one. And then I
right.
think it's removing the shame. Somebody doesn't like it or somebody is offended. My answer to that is that's that's you. And I invite you to not read what I write.
Mm-hmm,
I invite you to not engage in the conversation then. And that's a choice, right? But I think
mm-hmm,
I have removed, there's no shame in it. And I
mm-hmm,
think that a lot of us for a long time, me included, I felt embarrassed and shameful to kind of talk about the fact that, hey, maybe I didn't know the kinds of things that brought me pleasure in the bedroom. Maybe I
mm-hmm,
didn't spend enough time really analyzing what it is that I like and what do I need. Yeah, that's embarrassing, but you know what? If
mm-hmm,
I'm struggling with this, chances are a lot of other women are as well. And why can't we just normalize it and talk about it? And
mm-hmm.
it can be funny.
Yeah, it really can.
It can be.
And
I mean, it's not to like poke fun at us, but some of the stuff, Mira, that I've written about that have happened, that happened to me at the time, maybe I didn't find it so funny, but looking back now, and I have two younger sisters. They're in their 30s. And in a
Oh,
lot of
okay.
ways, I like to say that I'm like their crash test dummy. So for them, they're like, oh my God, write about everything and tell me everything. And please, please, please warn me about everything.
Oh my
So at
gosh.
least I have a captive audience of some of my lovelies who are in their 30s and 40s going, and
Right.
this is like a warning book. Like, and what's funny about that too, and what I love about what we're doing is I really hope we are reaching these younger women, because
Right.
there's so many things that we're talking about that you and Tina talk about that had I known in my 30s and 40s, I might have dismissed, who knows? I might have
Right.
created an even bigger distance between myself and like midlife or 50s. And oof, that's like old lady stuff. That's not me. But I think
Hmm.
that there would have been shreds of things I listened to. And certainly about the changes in my hormones in my body. And if nothing else, to go, wait, if I'm in my mid 30s and I'm noticing a cycle change, I need to go talk to somebody about that.
Hmm. Right. Yeah, you really bring up a lot of great questions. I think that that's one of the things that you are making the younger generations think. I hope that they pay attention to this because we
Yeah,
didn't.
we
So,
didn't know.
it's almost like I think there should be a big caution sign, saying, pay attention, this is a warning.
This
So,
is a warning, and you'll thank us later. You really will thank us
right.
later. Yeah.
We are constantly rewriting ourselves and I think becoming better versions of ourselves
Mm,
as we grow.
yep.
And, we don't, I do have some youngers here still, but most adults my age do not have the youngers, and
Yeah.
our careers change, we
Yep.
evolve. And I find that everything has been a stepping stone to where we are now in life. I can't
Totally.
even tell you how many identity shifts that I have had. Can you talk more about rewriting ourselves?
Yeah. So the identity shifts, I think, start with, for me, when you're transitioning from a college student to maybe a career person, and then getting married, and then becoming a mom, and then,
Mhm.
divorcing. And I had to kind of adapt and sort of figure out, like, who am I in the world?
Right.
Who do I, and I don't even think I ever started with the question, who do I want to be in the world? It was almost like, who do I have to be in the world right now? And who do I have to be
That's really good.
today? And who do I have to be for my kids? And who do I have to be for my partner? And who do I have to be for my boss? And so those things are happening to us. And I think the subtle shift, though, for me was I stopped asking, who do I have to be for? And started asking, who do I want to be right now?
Hmm.
And that impacted, I think, a lot of the decisions I made, probably in relationships. It certainly impacted in my later years from a career standpoint, how I viewed my career. I stopped going, well, who do I have to be to survive here, to who do I want to be? And then reclaiming that and going, yeah, I'm going to stay at this job. I know why I'm staying. I have a very clear intentional reason. And I'm staying because I want to be this. Cool. And there was a level of freedom, honestly, that
Right.
came when I
Oh,
started shifting the question that I didn't
yes.
feel before. Like, if you would have asked me last year at this time, would I be an author a year later? I would have been like, you're nuts. But then I
Hmm.
tapped into that, and it's like, why not? So I kind of think I stopped asking, who do I want to be for? And started asking, who do I want to be? And then I stopped asking or thinking, this can't be me. And started going, why not?
Hmm.
Why
Yeah,
not? If I want to write a book, why not?
right. And I love that because we are better than we were a year ago or 5 years
Oh,
ago or 10 years ago. And why not?
yeah. And I think a lot of it too, though, is us recognizing, like, I look back at that time, and I was a strong woman. I got through a lot
Hmm.
of stuff, but also there were things about myself I was critical about. I could look at my
Right.
body in the mirror and go, man, there's 17 things I don't like, or I've got a problem with
Hmm.
my legs or whatever. But what I've realized is this is the body that got me through a lot of stuff. This
Hmm.
is the body that gave me my three boys. This is the body that walked into jobs. And this is the body that, brokered contentious work meetings. This is the body that walked me to a mediator's office when I realized that my ex-husband and I needed to make a change.
Hmm.
I did that.
Hmm.
And now I'm not criticizing her. I'm looking at her going, man, you're pretty good.
Yeah. It's like a tree trunk where our bodies show all the rings and
Yeah.
everything that we've gone through, and there's like a scar here and it's something,
Yeah.
and it like shows our entire life as, we age.
I am embracing that. I appreciate it. And
Yeah,
I don't have regrets. Um,
that's good.
necessarily. I mean, I do wish I would have educated myself more on some of the hormonal stuff, but I don't have a lot of regrets. And now it's not,
Okay.
what am I doing? Or I can't do this. It's why not?
Hmm.
Why can't I?
I always say trust the process, and
Yes.
some of the things that we have in life that have really affected me, I know, and a lot of women are our failures, if that's how you want to say it, along the way, and being able to flip it and turn our failures into blessings and end up right where we're supposed to be and use them as stepping stones. What do you think about that?
I could not agree more. I mean, and I think I spend a lot of time even reminding my kids of this, right?
Mm,
I feel myself, I feel like I learned the most things from these either self-labeled or, perceived failures in my life.
mm, mm,
And
mhm,
I don't, were they painful at the time? Sure. But they brought me to where I am today. They allowed me to uncover and reacquaint myself with a lot of the things I actually really like about myself.
mhm,
They
mhm.
allowed me to develop new muscle and new competence and new skills that maybe I didn't have before. And so,
Yeah.
do I look back at any of those and go, man, I don't. I actually don't.
Mhm.
I look back at those and I'm grateful because they made
Yes.
me who I am today.
Yes. I mean, imagine if we never failed. I mean, we wouldn't even recognize when we did do well or when
I,
we did earn something.
it wouldn't just be so boring. It'd be like living in the Truman Show or, some of those, it would just be so boring. And
Yeah.
I don't want boring. I don't want cookie cutter. I don't want,
Yes.
I don't want somebody telling me, oh, this is how you have to do your book, or this is how you have to do your blog, or this is
Right.
how you have to show up in this, consulting engagement, or this is how you have to be to your kids right now. No, I get to decide.
When I started this podcast, I didn't know I was a journalist years ago. I mean, I knew how to do the journalism part. I knew how to do the mental health stuff. I knew how, but I didn't know how to do a podcast. And so, it wasn't perfect or whatever. I mean, sometimes just like you with writing a book, I mean, we just have to jump
Yes.
and if the parachute doesn't open maybe halfway down, I mean, we made it.
Yeah.
But that's what it's all about. When did you realize that you had a greater purpose to help people?
Well, it's a really good question. I mean, I do think um, if I go back to, just finding that folder, or starting that folder at 35,
Yes.
and I think it was born out of maybe a little bit of a selfish need because I was struggling.
Okay.
And I was
Mm,
like, you know what? I cannot be the only one struggling here and I need help. And how do
right.
I go about trying to find out and find that help? So I think maybe some of it was maybe born out of my own need and my own struggles for just needing comfort, needing
Mm-hmm.
answers, needing to know that I wasn't alone in all the
Mm-hmm.
things that I was feeling and all the things that I was experiencing. And I think I needed to a little bit of affirmation and validation for myself that I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
crazy, that all of
Mm-hmm.
these things that I was feeling and experiencing were normal and that I
Right.
wasn't alone. And
Right.
I think that same set of principles applied when I found the folder. And I started thinking about all the subjects that were feeling overwhelming to me or changing or shifting or that were bubbling up to the surface in a really exciting way or that I was afraid of. And I was like, I cannot be the only one here. And I want more people talking to me. I wanted more help. I wanted more help from other people. I wanted to hear what
Right.
other women were going through. I wanted to hear what other experts had to say about this stuff, because I wanted to help me. So
Right.
maybe it was a little bit of that. I kind of needed to help myself a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I recognized in the process of me helping me, I could maybe help other people. Um,
Right.
so I think it's that kind of, I fly a lot. My partner lives in Australia, so we have a long distance
Oh
relationship,
my
which is
gosh. Oh, that's so
crazy.
cool.
It's
Oh
so cool.
my.
But I fly a lot. And you know the announcement that the flight attendants will make about the oxygen mask dropping.
Uh-huh.
Like if it drops, what are you supposed to
You
do?
have to take care of yourself first. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I probably subconsciously always felt like that was a cute idea. Like, oh, but when you're a mom and you're all these other things, like that's not real. People don't do that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And now I'm realizing, yeah, they do.
Hmm.
You have to.
Right. Yeah, you just kind of touched on something else with boundaries and things that are really important. What boundaries would you say are non-negotiables when we're reinventing ourselves, or how do we stop apologizing for honoring them?
Yeah. I think a big one is you sort of have to write a promise to yourself that
Mm,
whatever it is that you want to do, right? Whatever it is, and I kind of did this when I started writing the book. I wrote down that kind of a paragraph, and basically that paragraph said things like, "This is going to feel very overwhelming. You
mhm,
don't have a playbook here. You
mm,
don't know what steps you're going to have to take, but this is important. You
mhm,
started this. You had this idea 20 years ago. You found it now. You're
mm,
just going to do it." And it also was a way to remind myself that I am very resourceful. And I know this about myself. If
mm.
I don't know something, I trust myself enough to know I will figure it out. That has been, I've done that in most aspects of my life. I'll feel afraid. I won't have a playbook. I won't have a guidebook, but I know enough about me to go, you will figure it out. And I wrote that down. You won't know a lot of things to do. You won't know the next 5 things. And I like a good plan. I like a good plan. And man, you are jumping into the deep end with some of this stuff. And I don't know what's
Yes.
coming at me next, but I know me. And I know
Right.
that I'm resourceful. And I know
Mm,
that I will figure it out. And so I had to write that down and just, and every once in a while I open the red folder and I look at that paragraph and I go, okay, it feels overwhelming today, but I will figure it out. I will figure it out.
I think that you just defined most women,
Yeah.
and that we are so resilient.
Yeah.
And I think that family basically is because of women. And,
Yes.
and you think, and it doesn't matter what problem hits our family or our kids or us. We don't know the next step in front of us. Sometimes we can't even see, let alone 5 steps ahead of us, but maybe the one right in front of us. But we always figure it out. We
We
just
do.
do.
We just do. And I think, and I could tell you every woman that I know, every woman that I've met through this process, I can tell you that they have that same trait. Every
Yeah.
woman. And it's
Yes.
like you have to tap into it. You have to remind yourself of it, and you have to trust yourself
Right.
that you've done it before and you can keep doing it.
Right.
That's what I think. And I think for me too, it was changing the question. It was, I'm not starting anything new with, what about this? And oh gosh, it can't be this. And, I don't know these things. And what if this? And what if that? The question became, why not? Why can't
Right.
I? Why can't I write a book?
Right. Right.
Why can't
That's
I start a Substack?
when you were talking about when we were talking about women and men, it made me think about how that's I can see God saying, oh, I made Adam. Oh shoot. I really I
Oopsie.
really I really have to have somebody help navigate the world and this guy, and or else it's not going anywhere. So I'm gonna have to send a woman. I just have to, in order for a family to be able to make it.
So true. You could almost just imagine, like, oops, there could be a fatal flaw in my plan. I better fix this.
Yes. So one of the things that I love about your community is that you're building a community through RGG 55 or 55.
Yeah.
And I think that that's so important. How do you think midlife friendships are? I mean, they are so different. My older friends are still, for one thing, they're working into their 60s and 70s now. It's not the way it used to be. And I'm also, because of my youngers, I'm friends with some of the younger generations, but In this stage of my life, I like the real, more authentic relationships. That's just where I am. I don't want to do fake. Don't even bother me with the fake because I'm not going there. I want real.
You've hit it. And I did a blog article on midlife friendships, and I think you hit it. This isn't a volume play. This isn't a quantity play. It's a quality play. And you know, who are the women or the men? Like, who are the friends
Mm-hmm.
that are adding something to my life where I feel like I cannot talk to them for 2 or 3 months and then we reconnect and it's like no time has passed? Or the friends
Mm,
who know that I'm doing something big, or I'm staring down the face of a big problem, and who will drop me a text and go, "Hey, I'm just thinking about you today." Um,
yes.
it's not fake. It's not performative. It's not
Yes.
competitive. It's just real. And it's the friends who get honest with me about what's going on for them. It's the friends that I trust that I could be honest with. And
Mm-hmm.
it's removing the shame and this need to one up each other, or this need to appear perfect. Like, I am not.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the friendships that I keep gravitating toward. And it's some of them are newer friends that I've met through work or through friends of my kids, or friends of friends even. It's the realness, the authentic relationships. It's the people that I don't need to perform for, or I'm not
Mm-hmm.
competing with. It's the people that I can get honest with and get honest with me, and the people that want to see me succeed and be
Right.
successful and build me up and remind me that I can do anything I put my mind to on the days where I feel shaky.
Yeah. I can pick up on it right away. I mean, if somebody's
Yes.
fake, it's like, okay, hi, bye, nice to know you, and
It's
move on.
funny. It's our radar. And I think part of that too is this, again, kind of trusting in ourselves. Like, our radar is really good
Mm-hmm.
and we've got to trust it. And when the spidey senses are going, this isn't feeling right, you got to go with that. And then feeling confident that I can trust my intuition. 9 times out of 10,
Yep.
honestly, when I get a gut feeling, I usually find myself in trouble when I don't trust it.
Exactly. Yes. If I second guessed. And
Yes.
and so I've learned to just, and I'm always, and it's really funny. I don't really mean to brag, but I'm normally right.
Yeah, you should. Well, and brag. And it's
Yeah.
okay. You've earned the right
It
because your track record proves it. Like,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it is maybe that wisdom. I'm not really sure, but I think, have earned the right to be able to go with our gut.
100%. We've more than earned the right. Like, we've lived through the storms. We've persevered through the issues. We've built and have always been resilient. Like
Hmm.
that, those are our rights.
Right.
That more than anything, we need to lean on that.
When I was younger, I looked at my Aunt Hazel, who I thought was always old. She always looked old. Um, but she lived a lot longer than I always thought she was on death's door, I guess, but she really wasn't. But that's how we look at older people when we're younger. But what I loved the most, and I can specifically remember this, is that no matter where I went with her, I was a little embarrassed sometimes, but she was always herself, always. She never apologized. She was just really just who she was. And I said to myself, when I got a little older and I really looked up to that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I want to be when I'm older. I want to be just like my Aunt Hazel. I don't want to make apologies for who I am. I just want to be.
I have a similar story. And for me, it was my Aunt Jo. She was my great great aunt, believe it or not. So she was alive when
Yeah.
I was a teenager, and I used to spend a lot of time one-on-one time with her because she and I just had a connection. And she would take
Yeah.
me to amusement parks. She would bring me to her house. We'd do sleepovers. And what I loved about
Mm-hmm.
her was not only was she not apologetic, but she was not afraid to ask for what she wanted. And if she wanted something,
Right.
she was going to go out and get it. And she didn't sacrifice. She didn't try to placate other people. She wanted the things that she wanted, and she made them happen for herself. And I,
Mm-hmm.
very prim and proper, always with the hair done, always just looked immaculate with the purse
Yep.
and the outfit, and the car was clean, the house was clean, it was
Always.
perfect. But
Always.
she never wavered on what it is she wanted.
Yes.
And I love that about my Aunt Jo. I'm glad we share that. I love that.
Yeah, she was my great aunt too. My dad was older. He was an older generation when I was adopted by him. So his sister, who was actually 20 years older than him even, I mean so she was much older, but she really taught me a lot. And this is why people need to pay attention to our generation, because we really can pass down these things.
We can pass them down from things that we've learned. They're like lived experiences. Like, honestly, pay attention to us. We
Yes.
have lived it. And if we didn't live it, we know somebody who has. And also, I think that we pay great attention. We are
Mhm.
stewards of this stuff, and we are attentive. We've lived it. We have experiences, and now we are shaping those into helpful guides,
Right.
helpful pitfalls to avoid, empowering messages that, man, if I were in my 30s and 40s right now, I'd be soaking this up all the time, all
Hmm.
the time.
I think though the younger generation, and I think that I was guilty of this too, I mean, we think we know it all. So it's kind of getting past that to be
I
able
think,
to listen.
yeah, I think it's that, or for me, a lot of it was that's never going to happen to me.
Yeah.
That's never going to happen to me. I don't have to worry about that. It's like, well, I just wish I would have. I really think, and I say this to my sisters all the time, who are super gracious, right? My younger sisters in their 30s. I'm like the crash test dummy, but they're always super like, oh my gosh, Ange, thank you. Thank you for telling us all this stuff. Thank you for being
Hmm.
so open and real. And, like, yeah, are they going to do anything different with the information? But at least they're aware.
Hmm.
And at least like somewhere in the back of their brains, like maybe it's not today, but maybe in 5 or 10 years when their cycles are changing or the hot flashes begin, they'll go, wait a second. She talked to me about this. I remember this. Like, I got to go
Yeah.
do something about this.
With our age, one of the things that happens is that, we've been hit with curveball after curveball. We've just had life. We have had life. So, what do you think people can take with them from us the most? I mean, when we are the most down and out, unable to really even feel like that we can get up, when we're at our lowest moments, what advice would you give?
I think the advice I'd give is like, acknowledge where you're at and don't dismiss your feelings. Don't try to justify your feelings, but, feel the things you need to feel and, begin.
Hmm.
Take a step. Maybe that first step is calling a friend and going, hey, I don't know what's happening, but something's happening for me. Or,
Hmm.
reach out for help, pick up a book,
Hmm.
listen to a podcast,
Hmm.
just begin. But I think the first thing is acknowledging how you feel, acknowledging where you're sitting, and being like, don't try to minimize that. Don't try to rationalize it. Just embrace
Hmm.
where you're at,
Hmm.
embrace how you're feeling, and begin. Take a small
Yeah.
step, ask for help, reach out to a friend, send a text, listen to a podcast, pick up a book, just begin. And I
Yeah. Keep
think
moving.
keep moving. And I think a lot of this stuff, depending on the thing that we're facing, some of these things can feel so overwhelming. They can feel so destabilizing. They can feel
Hmm.
crushing. But I
Hmm.
think the one thing to
Yeah.
remember is chances are you've been through something like that, worse, or that made you feel the way you're feeling. And
Hmm.
how did you get through it? Because you probably did.
Right. You
And
made it through those. You'll make it through this.
yeah. And there's
Right.
no shame in asking for help. There's no shame in reaching out,
Yeah.
going, I am
That's
struggling today.
important.
Or
Right.
can you throw a little extra positive juju my way today? Because here's this thing that I'm facing. Yeah. And I think, and then I think you just begin.
I love that you've created a movement basically, and you actually have an upcoming book that you've been talking about. I would like to hear more about it, and interviewing 100 plus women. I mean, I just can't even imagine the amount of wisdom that you've been hearing.
It is incredible. So yeah, I mean, the way I kind of think about the difference between, the Substack, Real Girls Guide to Over 55 is our community. It's the
Hmm.
place where we can just dive in real time, chat, share, and the book is really the companion. And it is this, you know, reframing of all the things that are happening us through my story, through the stories of other women, through the stories of experts, to remind us that we're not alone. And it's not going to give you the prescription to deal with everything perfectly, but it's certainly going to open up your eyes to A, you're not alone. B, other women, other experts can help you. And C, there is a path forward. You can move through these things and be better for them. And so the interviewing, it was about 120 women and about 25 experts. And it was the most humbling experience. And again, I kind of sat down on this path and I had an idea of the structure for the book that I wanted, and I wanted it to be some of my stories. But more importantly, I wanted it to be the stories of other women and experts who have a perspective that maybe I didn't know, or that could help me navigate what was happening to me. Might not solve my problem, but man, it could give me something that I didn't know before I started. And, I kind of went down the path and I was like, well, it would be great. Like, I have some friends I can talk to for sure. I can talk to my mom, but the absolute outpouring of women who were so brave and so open and so giving and gracious with their stories, and the experts who gave their time and their wisdom and their advice, like I was completely humbled. And again, I've never done this before. So I was floored and so incredibly grateful. And I mean, I took something, and I can honestly say this, I took something away from every single person who shared something for me for this book. And the way I look at it, the book is not my book. The book is our book. The community, RGG55, is not mine. It's ours. It belongs to all of us who are just in this messy middle, getting through these transitions, dealing with all the curveballs that, man, they just keep coming. And it's not mine, it's ours. And I just, and it will always be that way for me.
I love it because I always say that everybody has a story. And I always wanted to just sit at a rest stop and interview people on their travel and their story, because everybody's going somewhere and everybody has a story to tell. So I love that you're telling yours and 120 other women's stories. I mean, oh my gosh, the amount of wisdom that you took away from that, I can't wait to read it, honestly. I think that that's fantastic.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited. And the book will be coming out in December. We're going to do a little cover reveal coming up here soon. And that's been a fun process. And yeah, awesome. And RGG55 continues on. I write about three posts a week. Some of them are funny, and we do polls. We do little reframes of the month. Some of them are hard and a little bit more serious. There's still a few blogs that I go back to that really kind of create a lot of emotion in me. But it's very real, and it's very raw, and it's just human.
What do you think the future of midlife revolution is, and how this can spark the future for other generations?
I think we are going to see a complete and utter shift in things like women's healthcare, in the kinds of conversations that women are having, and quite honestly, the conversations that men are picking up on and becoming participants in. And I think that this shift is going to continue. If I go back to sort of where we started, you can't ignore the numbers, right? You can't ignore the fact that women over 50 represent such a huge part of the female population. You can't ignore the spending power that women have and will continue to have. And I think we're starting to see shifts, right? We as women and men are educating ourselves. We are participating in these conversations, and we are demanding the kind of care that we feel like we deserve. And if we're not getting it, we're not going to be dismissed. We're not going to be gaslit. If I'm not getting the support I need, I don't have to struggle. I don't have to sit back and, start crocheting because I'm retired. I don't have to stop wearing trucker hats. I wrote a blog about trucker hats because I loved a good trucker hat. And somebody that I know, I wore one, and she said, "I can't believe you still wear those." I said, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Well, those are for teenagers. You need a full brim situation." I'm like, "The heck I do."
What? Oh
Try
my
again.
gosh.
Try that again.
No.
And so now I make it a point every time I see her, I wear a trucker hat. So I think we're starting to see this, we're not standing behind the shadows and, in cardigans and house dresses and slippers, and you
Hmm.
can't ignore it. Like even my kids, now granted, I talk a lot about stuff here, but even my boys, they're getting exposed to words like menopause, libido, perimenopause, hot flashes. They've watched me. They've watched me grind hard at a
Hmm.
career for
Yeah.
30
Yeah.
years.
Yes.
They've seen me pick up a folder for something that I had the idea to do 20 years ago. They've seen me take a risk and just do the thing. They're seeing all that. And
Yes.
I think that these kinds of things are going to carry us forward, and they're going to carry the generation after us forward, because our kids, those of us who are around people who are younger, they are seeing the motion. They are
Hmm.
hearing the words. They're feeling the vibration changing, the frequency changing. And you can't
Hmm.
help but not absorb that.
Right. I bet your kids really enjoy those conversations.
They do. You can imagine. You can imagine. Sometimes, I'll just randomly walk through the house and drop a word like tampon, and just because I like to hear a reaction, or
Yes.
like, I
That's
don't
awesome.
care.
Hey, you know what? They're going to be so informed for their partners later.
That's
I mean,
exactly right.
that's great. I think that's awesome.
Well,
So
and
one,
I do always tell my kids, I have a lot of momtras. My boys call them momtras. But one of them is, if you're going to take a risk in life, always bet on yourself. And for
yeah.
me, I can't, and the thing that I try to remember with my kids in particular, I can't just tell them the thing. I have to show them the thing. You want to have these conversations with your partners, and you want to be really explicit and really clear, and, consent is everything. And you want to not, all these
Hmm.
things. I can't just
Yeah.
tell them that. I have to show them. So I
Hmm.
have to be comfortable in these things.
Right.
And
Right.
man, for better or for worse, these boys are getting an education.
Yeah. It's the same thing with me and my kids. I mean, I'm just not going to tell them to
No.
go out and work hard. And I mean, I'm going to grind. I'm going to
Yeah.
show you how to do it. So
And I'm
yeah,
going
I
to show
want to
you how
be,
to, yeah. And you're going to trust that I did it when I was in my 20s. You're going to trust I did it when I was in my 30s. You saw
right.
that I did it in my 40s. And now you're going to see me keep going. And it's not going to
Right.
stop until I decide it stops.
I have one last question. If
Mm-hmm.
you could host a dream roundtable with three women who inspire you, alive or not, who would they be and what would you want to know?
Okay. Well, first I would invite Jamie Lee Curtis,
Oh, I
because that
love her.
woman is the most incredible example of
Mm,
just embracing life with zero apologies, full throttle, arms wide open, and the energy that says, I don't give an F about anything.
hmm.
And she's a great mother. She's a great human. She cares about humanity, and she's got all these causes, and she just walks into a room and owns it. So that would be one.
Mm,
I think the other one would be my grandma Gemma, if I'm honest with you, because while I had her in my life until I was in my 30s, and actually until I was 40, she died just before like 4 days before I had my last son.
oh,
I did not appreciate her enough.
mm,
I don't think I asked her the right questions, and I wish I would have had more conversations with her about things that were very specific. So I think that would be one. And then the third one, I'm completely right now enamored with Bozoma St. John. She is the former CMO of places like Apple, Beats by Dre. She worked at
okay.
Netflix, PepsiCo, and she is, I mean, the energy that she brings to not only her, and the pride that she brings to the career that she built, the
Hmm.
personal adversities that she lived through, the raising of her daughter, and the work that she's doing now. I think it's pretty badass, if I say so. And I think she would be an amazing person to just sit and talk to. So it'd be Jamie Lee Curtis, my grandma Gemma, and Bozoma St. John. I think it'd be a pretty impactful um, sit down.
Wouldn't that be awesome
It'd be
to
so
be able
good.
to Oh gosh.
So good. Like I have
Yeah.
all the questions and it's almost like you want to absorb that energy and those vibes just by osmosis. Like just sit here and just like give me all your juju. Just I want to take it all. And I've got all these questions for you too.
I would love to sit across from people that I really admire and just soak in everything.
Everything. Just a lot of the energy that I just want to absorb and I want to carry forward for my
Mhm.
boys, for my kids, for my sisters, for all my friends like you and all the people that I've met. I just want to carry that energy forward for all of us.
How can people get a hold of you and visit your website?
Yes. Well, come to realgirlsguide55.com, which is on Substack. It's where I do all my writing. I'm on Instagram, so real girls guide 55.
Mhm.
That's a fun place to find me. I have a website called realgirlsguide.com. And I'll be sharing more about the book as we get closer to launching that on my socials. And the other exciting thing that we've got running now until the end of October is a giveaway for
Okay.
Menopause Awareness Month. So
Okay.
if you subscribe to the Substack and follow me on the socials and share and repost and tag, you'll be entered in for a chance to win one of 3 glow up kits with some of my very favorite items. There's no sponsorship. Nobody's paid me to do it, but it's just, I love sharing things that work for me.
That's so awesome. And this has been amazing. I just want to thank you so much for being on. Well, Angela, thank you so very much for being here today. This has been so much fun. I'm going to read your Substack and your book that's coming out. Thank you for reminding us that midlife is not a negative, but a revolution. It's the moment that we stop asking for permission and start taking up space. This is a different way to see aging. We are not like our parents' generations. We are just not. I mean, women are growing and evolving into powerful change makers with purpose. This is much greater than we ever imagined. For our listeners, if you are a midlife power woman or if you know one, please check out Angela's Substack, RG55, and her community Real Girls Guide. You will find powerful women, real stories, and women who are rewriting their script on what it means to thrive after 40. Subscribe to Real Talk with Tina and Ann, by the way. Share this episode with someone who needs to be a part of this community. We are not alone. We are not invisible. We are just getting started. Midlife isn't the end of the story. It's the chapter where the heroine finally writes her own plot. Remember, there is always purpose in the pain and hope in the journey. Thank you for joining Real Talk with Tina and Ann, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for having me.